Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about something that I'm pretty weirdly passionate about. So many of you know that I live in the beautiful, hated state of Ohio here in the United States. And if you didn't know, there's actually a pretty massive development happening for the state of Ohio. It's the largest economic investment in the state's history, and it actually has the ability to reshape how America works, quite literally. I don't know if you guys know how important semiconductors are and how important they are to the global economy, but it's actually been a pretty critical problem over these last few years, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, because obviously shipping around the world has been pretty messed up. You know, there's been like these crates that have been stuck in docks around the world for years at this point, unpacked. And we've had a semiconductor shortage globally for a while now because of issues like this. And semiconductors, let me go ahead and educate you really quickly on why these are so important to pretty much everything. So in basics, semiconductors are the building blocks of computers. You need semiconductors to make computers function and to basically, you know, make pretty much every system in the world work. I mean, let's be real here. The military uses them, pretty much all of our basic services use them. You use God knows how many of them for all of your smart devices, all of your electronics, your computer, your phone, your video games. Your car has semiconductors, your smart fridge might have a semiconductor. Pretty much everything electronic these days is coming with semiconductors. That's how important they are. Well, if you didn't know, most of the semiconductors that we use are not manufactured here in the United States. In fact, they're manufactured in places like in Asia or wherever, and then we import and buy these semiconductors from these countries that manufacture them at a much cheaper price. This is pretty much how all manufacturing works here now. We outsource all of the work to other countries. They do it for a way cheaper price than we buy the product back for them. It's literally killed American manufacturing. You've heard politicians ramble on about this for years. But there's a massive project in the works here in the state of Ohio that would give America some of its semiconductor independence back, would have just incredible economic benefits for the state of Ohio, and the ripple effects of something like this happening would be felt across the entire United States. So the company Intel has been planning to build two new massive factories in a place called Licking County, which is north of Columbus. It is one of the biggest economic projects in the state of Ohio's history. At its first kind of initial phase, it's already planned to be a $20 billion with a B dollar investment. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the impact numbers that this planned massive factory would have here in Ohio alone. $20 billion planned to be invested in two new leading-edge chip factories, and at full build-out, the total investment could grow to $100 billion over a decade. There would be 3,000 jobs for Intel alone, with 7,000 construction jobs and tens of thousands of long-term local jobs being supported in Ohio. $100 million going to education to build a pipeline of talent for semiconductor manufacturing and chip building here in the United States and in Ohio alone. It would be funded through 100% renewable energy, so it's going to be clean, it's going to be climate friendly, it's not going to be some, toxic factory pumping chemicals into the air. $76 million in charitable giving globally that goes through the Intel Foundation, and they contributed $76 million in charitable contributions in 2021, and almost 850,000 global volunteer hours in schools and nonprofits around the world in 2021. These are just a few numbers that signify the impact that this could have on the national economy and the Ohio economy. But this isn't even the main reason why this is actually so important. The real reason why this is so important is because it gives us control, at least a little bit of control back over the supply of semiconductors coming into this country. So hypothetically, right now, if there was some sort of major crisis, I guess, politically in the world, the United States' semiconductor supply could be threatened in a pretty major way. In fact, one of the pretty big fights that we're having with China right now actually completely surrounds semiconductors, because both countries realize just how critically important semiconductors are to their militaries, to their hospitals, to their schools, to their banking systems, to all of their manufacturing, to pretty much their entire ways of life at this point. And the United States is not in the best position when it comes to semiconductors globally. I mean, yeah, we get what we need, we help, progress technology and stuff with it, but with a factory like this, we would have so much more control over the supply of semiconductors in our country. And with moves like this, if we continued to to bring the manufacturing for semiconductors back home to the United States, someday maybe we could have full control over this again and we wouldn't even have to worry about our adversaries cutting off our supplies for these things, or lead these political crusades basically against other countries over something like this. And the craziest part about this is this might not happen. Even though Intel has been fully committed to building this plant in Ohio and bringing all these jobs and all this economic benefit to our country, our representatives over on Capitol Hill have basically twiddled their fucking thumbs and stood beside as pretty much nothing has happened. So this entire plan is pretty dependent on something major that has happened with our representatives. So it's been over a year since the Senate passed its bill to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing, but with time running out before Congress's August recess, the White House is pushing hard to make sure the funding goes through. On Wednesday, Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo led a classified briefing with senators stressing the importance of chip funding as a national security concern. If Congress couldn't agree on the broader bill before its upcoming recess, Raimondo urged it to pass the $52 billion in chip manufacturing incentives by itself. The message is, time's up, Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo told CNN after the briefing. It's time to make it happen. Passed as the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, or USICA, the legislation includes more than $52 billion for companies manufacturing semiconductors in the U.S. But despite broad bipartisan support for the measure, it's failed to get a vote in the House due to lingering concerns about how the bill would overhaul federal research and development subsidies. The stalled funding has been particularly urgent in Ohio, where Intel planned to spend $20 billion to build an ambitious new semiconductor foundry. Groundbreaking for the foundry was initially planned for July 22nd, but has been put on hold while the funding remains in limbo. In a Washington Post live interview earlier this week, Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger said the project would likely move to Europe if the funding is not approved. Quote, "We've made super clear to McConnell, to the Democrats, to the Republicans that if this doesn't pass, I will change my plans," Gelsinger said. "The Europeans have moved forward very aggressively and they're ready to give us the incentives that allow us to move forward." So you guys don't understand how much this actually pisses me off. Congress literally already approved the funding to help subsidize plans like this and actually build up American chip manufacturing again, and to make us competitive globally in chip manufacturing actually could make us a leader, but instead of doing their fucking job and pushing it through and getting the funding spent, they've been literally twiddling their thumbs, complaining about virtually nothing, while Intel is now basically postponing these plans that would have massive impacts on our economy and our national security, and they're threatening to move this whole project over to fucking Europe. So we're basically at a point where we've gotten to the point where we realize, like, oh, hey, maybe we should bring our semiconductors home so we don't have to worry about this down the road. Then when it comes time to actually put it into action and put the plan forward, now they're just like, oh, well, let's risk moving it to Europe, you know? So basically, we're in three predicaments. There's three different ways this can go. Either A, we can give up and just let Asia dominate the semiconductor manufacturing globally and control the supply and where it goes, and we can just hope that they're nice enough to let us have the semiconductors we need to make our country run. B, we can use the funding we already approved to make ourselves competitive globally in chip manufacturing again and actually make America great again, like all these goddamn politicians have been preaching for the last 6 years. That building back better that Biden promised us in his administration could actually happen. Or C, we can twiddle our thumbs, let the funding go nowhere except probably back to the military or back to the pockets of these fucking politicians, and we can depend on Europe for our semiconductors as well too. Those are basically our options. Why does number 1 and number 3 even sound like something that we could accept as a country? Why are more Americans not mad about this? Like, whether you think this affects you or not, it does. This is a legitimate national security concern, and the economic benefits of pushing something like this along would be tremendous. But yet the politicians in office have done nothing to make these plans happen, and now Intel's getting impatient. And can you really blame them? They're trying to get their plans going, they're trying to get this done, and basically the politicians that agreed to help during this whole thing have just stood by and done nothing. And you know how politicians are, they try to package these kinds of things and throw in other things that they want. Literally dozens of executives at tech companies have written an open letter to the congressional leadership supporting the funding, like that's how important this could be to our economy. And we're just standing around letting nothing happen because that's what our politicians do best. That's what the American political machine does best. Standing by while, you know, all the progress that we could be having, all of these benefits we could be providing people, all of this economic impact that would make us a richer, more stable country. We don't care about that, right? We just gotta care about the nitpick bullshit that we have going on Capitol Hill. You know how this is probably gonna go. The Democrats are gonna try to package in some deal where they want to bring in a bunch of stuff they blatantly know the Republicans won't support. The Republicans, of course, will go on par. They won't support what the Democrats want. They're not gonna pass the bill. That's pretty much where it's at right now. That's the outcome we're heading towards. So if you care about this issue as much as I do, and you want to see America become a better country, you want to see us take control over what's going on, and you want to help make America build itself back better or make America great again, it's time to take action. I genuinely encourage everybody to write your local representative and demand, even if you don't live in Ohio, demand that your representative support this deal. Tell them that you will not vote for them, and you will encourage everyone you know to not vote for them if they do not support this bill. This is bigger than the state of Ohio. This is a national issue. The benefits are there. The benefits are proven. We already know all of the good things that are going to happen if this is built. But it's not going to be built if Americans don't put pressure on their representatives. So I've left a link below this video where you can actually look through all the representatives and whatnot and find your local representative, and you can contact them. That's in the description and the pinned comment of this video. So go ahead and write them about that. Of course, be as polite as you can be, but make sure to be urgent about it. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, fighting for the state of Ohio, man. Give us this damn plant, and signing out.